Welcome, everybody, to the August 27, 2018 Village of Lake Bluff Board of Trustees meeting. All righty, could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Anchorman?
Here.
Trustee Dewar?
Here.
Trustee Grenier?
Here.
Trustee Lemieux?
Here.
Trustee Toll?
Here.
Could we all stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. We have the consideration of the minutes of the July 23rd, 2018 Village Board meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dewar and second by
Lemieux.
Mr. Lemieux. Any additions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this point, the village board allows 15 minutes for anyone to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anybody that wishes to do so? Okay, I guess not. All righty, the village board sets the order of the meeting, and I would like to move up number 13, number 12, and number 16.
Without objection.
Without any objection to that? Anybody okay with that? Thank you. All right, so to move those up to the front, we have item number 13, which is a resolution approving a plat of subdivision and waiving certain requirements of the Lake Bluff subdivision ordinance for 12409 and 12389 West Quasi Avenue, unincorporated Nolan. State law and the village's subdivision regulations, Title 11 of the Municipal Code, provide that subdivisions lying within 1.5 miles of the village corporate limits are subject to the subdivision regulations where the village is the closest municipality to the land being subdivided. Accordingly, the attached amendment to a prior 2006 subdivision in the Knollwood unincorporated area requires review approval by the Village Board of Trustees in the form of the attached resolution. As the amendment will create a new buildable single-family lot, the subdivision regulations require the subdividing party to contribute land or cash to provide for the current and future needs of taxing jurisdictions that will serve residents of the new dwelling unit. Consistent with past practice, the attached resolution will require those fees to be paid prior to the issuance of a building permit for the new lot. The waiver of certain other requirements of the subdivision regulations is recommended as the subdivision is subject to review by the Lake County pursuant to their Unified Development Ordinance. Lake County tends to review and may take final action concerning the plat amendment at a special meeting called in the morning of Wednesday, August 29th. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Ankerman, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dewart. Comments, questions? I'm sorry.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, roll call vote.
Trustee Anchorman?
Aye.
Trustee Dewar?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Lemieux?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Congratulations. Okay, new home? Great.
One step
Okay.
closer.
Do you have kids? Yes, we do. Okay, you're going to a great school system. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do number 12 at the moment, which is a resolution approving a site plan for a pergola and patio for the Union Church at 525 East Prospect Avenue. The Union Church recently completed the construction of their new manse, pastor's house, and tore down the old manse. They are proposing to construct a patio and pergola for outdoor events near the site of the old manse, as was discussed during their special use permit review last year. The pergola, patio, and associated lighting and landscaping were reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review at a special meeting on August 14th. The ABR voted 6-0 to recommend that the village board approve the site plan. John Hirsch of Krugel Cobbles, Ann Sorensen, and village staff are in attendance to answer any questions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lemieux. Any comments, questions by the board to any of the folks here?
There were, I had a couple of questions about the orientation of the drawing, which Drew clarified, so the sidewalk ends on Prospect. The other questions I had were how bright the lights will be, and I think, Drew, you said the intensity was in the flashlight.
It was 251 lumens, I believe. I think that's what the
That-
spec sheet
that-
called out.
Would you mind coming up here, sir? I'm sorry. Thank you.
And maybe you can also clarify where the lighting will actually be placed.
Do you want me to use this? I can have a
Yes.
PowerPoint presentation?
Absolutely.
So,
Only if it's an hour long.
quick, but it'll be easier to explain it with the drawing. So I'm John Hirsch with Girl Cobbles. Thanks for hearing our case for the pergola and the patio. The lights are very minimal. They're under what are called under the coping lights, so they do not go up. There's no bulbs that are going to be visible. It's basically a soft down light on the pillars and on the step treads to illuminate the fact that there is a step. So it's not a lot of light, but it's enough to keep the installation usable and safe in the evening.
And then will they be on throughout the evening, or are they just part of the evening, or what?
Typically, we've never had a need to use outdoor space at night.
Okay,
So this is going to be kind of a new thing for us.
okay,
But I would be very surprised if our pastor, who's going to continue to live next door in the manse, would want the lights to be on all the time.
okay,
If there wasn't some sort of planned event taking place. And
okay.
I can't imagine any of the events would go past,
Okay.
9, 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
But the lighting is very minimal.
Okay.
So you're not expecting that this would be on a nightly timer or something? It would be
I wouldn't think so.
On an occasion-by-occasion basis?
It's more of when we need to use the space for public gatherings. Part of the idea of this park, courtyard as we call it, is we wanted to create a welcoming, we feel that we're a welcoming church, so the idea would be that this is almost creating a park for the neighborhood. The space is open, anyone can come use it. The walk is inviting, there's open lawn that leads up to the courtyard space, there's benches in the courtyard space. It's really, the idea is to create a welcoming space for people to feel like, if nothing's going on, they can go up and walk down and sit in the park area. Do you have the, click area? So this is the courtyard right here, and down is north. So Prospect is down on the plan. That's the sidewalk, and to the right, to the west, is the existing church, and to the left is the new manse that we just built at 535 East Prospect. The old manse was situated basically, if you see the right side of that walk, that was the west face of the old manse. And that's been torn down. It's an open lot right now, and the intention has always been to create this park-like setting for use of the church, for weddings, for gatherings. Typically, we like to have coffee hour, and when we can have it outside, after church, we would have it outside, or any other gatherings, ice cream social, whatever the things that we typically do.
You may be getting to this,
I'm
but
trying to-
when are you going to have this complete, do you feel like?
Well, it depends on the approval today
Assuming you
and
got
getting the
approval.
permit, but we're intending to start virtually immediately.
Okay.
September timeframe. We've already, Mariani Landscape made an extraordinarily generous contribution to us, and we've already hired them to do the landscaping on the manse and the courtyard, and I believe they're starting on the manse's landscape because the house is built on Thursday, and they have about 6 days of work. We're gonna finish that first off, and then move on to the courtyard as soon as we have the permit approved and start that in September timeframe, hopefully finishing early October. Mariani would then do the landscape. By Halloween, all this would be done. All this would be constructed. And I'm having trouble moving this forward here. I don't know how to,
The right key,
I use a Mac.
Technology.
Indeed. Okie dokie. Thank you.
go to the upper left for current slide.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna need a little assistance here.
Slideshow?
From the beginning or from current slide? Thank you. So, going back to, so this is the overall layout. You have the manse on the left, the courtyard is on the right, church is on the far right. This is a close-up. You can see the pergola. There are actually 2 pillars in the front, 2 pillars in the back that support the pergola. We did add a handicap accessible ramp that allows for anyone to access the space and also the altar. There are 2 stairways that enter into one directly from the sanctuary, one from the back. And then we have the handicap accessible walk going to the parking lot, and someone could enter from the city sidewalk on Prospect. The altar area is raised up 1 step, and then we have seating for about 150 people, and then a walk leading up to it. Larger lawn space that allows for an inviting feeling. And then Cliff Miller actually was really helpful, and he created the landscape drawing. We wanted to create something a little more, we originally presented a plan to the village of a more formal space, but a lot of the members felt like we wanted something a little more informal because we're an informal church. And this is what Cliff came up with. And we wanted to use native plants, and that's what is here. So this is the pergola. You can see the 2 pillars in the front, the 2 pillars in the back, and the pergola structure itself is actually pointing upwards. So we wanted to give an open, aspirational feel to it, which we kind of felt this does. And if you were to look at those pillars, you can see the stone copings on the top. There'll be 2 lights on each side of that, just under the coping, that will wash light down onto the stone. And same thing in the front of that tread that'll wash light down onto the ground to illuminate the fact that it's a step. But the light will be very minimal.
Okay.
It's the material that we're using for the altar area and the part of the walkway. And this is the material. It's a clay brick from Endicott, comes from Nebraska. It's the paver that's in the lobby of the church already, and it's the paver that's on the sidewalk in front of the church. So we wanted to connect it to the church. The manse kind of has its own style. So we wanted the courtyard really to feel like it belonged to the church. And then we would have a cap on top of the pillars. This is the veneer, stone veneer we're going to use for the pillars. And again, it kind of plays off of the stone that's already been used at the church. And these are the benches. So there's 4 benches that we're planning to use, and those would go in the park setting. And then we're going to use a cedar fence. This may not be the exact fence we choose, but something of this variety is going to go around the manse and eventually around the courtyard. These are the lights. Again, you can see that little clip in the back. It rests underneath the stone cap. The light illuminates the stone below, very minimal. And then these are kind of a selection of the native and native-R plants that Cliff specified. So a lot of color, you know, a lot of texture. It's going to be very welcoming. And that's everything. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Lovely. It's going to be a great asset, I think, to the street and to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I already have a first and a second. Any other comments? All righty, this is a roll call? Yep. Okay, roll call.
All right. Trustee Dewart,
Aye.
Trustee Grenier,
Aye.
Trustee Lemieux,
Aye.
Trustee Toll,
Aye.
Trustee Engelmann. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, agenda number 16, which is an ordinance amending the Lake Bluff zoning regulations relating to solar energy systems. At its regular meeting in August. At its regular meeting in August, the PCCBA held a public hearing to consider amendments to the Lake Bluff zoning ordinance that would relax the standards applicable to building-mounted solar energy systems in residential areas. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCCBA recommended unanimously that the village board, by text amendment, 1, allow building-mounted solar panels in all districts without a special use permit. Remove the requirement that residential solar panels be reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review. For residential installations, add a height restriction and an optional referral for architectural review. Add protective language and an installer certification concerning glare for all installations. There is a pending special use permit application to operate a building-mounted solar energy system at 600 Arbor Drive that was also recommended unanimously by the PCZBA at its August meeting. If the subject text amendment is approved, this special use permit will no longer be required. Because the village's current solar panel regulations require site plan review by the Architectural Board of Review, ABR, whose next meeting is on September 11th, an ordinance issuing a special use permit will be provided for the board's first reading consideration at its September 10th meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dewar and a second. Second by Mr. Toll. Comments, questions?
The question, I like the intent here. The question that I had was, I was unclear, and perhaps it was the late hour that I was reading this, but I was unclear about how ground-mounted solar panels would be handled. And Drew, I think you said it would be a special use.
In all districts.
Okay, so I'm pleased with that. The other part of that, and I think I'm okay with this too, is that because it's a special use, it goes through the zoning board, not architectural board review. I think I'm okay with that, but is there, I don't know, is there a conflict there, or?
About ground-mounted appurtenances?
Yeah, in
or-
other words, who is the arbitrator of taste when it is a ground-mounted system? And right now, it's zoning, and I guess I'm,
Actually,
I
with
don't have a
roof mount,
strong
with roof,
opinion about this, but I'm aware that we're straddling two boards here, and whether excluding architectural is prudent. No, I don't want to overly complicate that. That's
Yeah.
the thing that is causing me to pause.
just to clarify, so right now,
He's on his phone.
there are regulations that are being suggested to be revised by the PCZBA includes amending residential regulations, relaxing them so they do not have to go to ABR review. The special use permit, that's, I mean, separate process, but the ABR for this revised language would say you do not have to go to ABR. Is that what
Right,
you're
I
asking
understand.
about?
Yeah, yes, I thank you for clarifying it. I do understand that. I guess my only question is removing ABR's purview over ground-mounted solar system a prudent move?
Which is not in this ordinance.
No,
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, got it.
Well, I'm trying to clarify what you're asking. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe I'm being thick-headed. All I'm saying is, we have removed something from ABR, given it to PCZBA, and I am concerned about the aesthetics of ground-mounted systems, and I'm asking
Yeah.
a politically insensitive question, and that is the PCZBA the best arbitrator over the aesthetics of a ground-mounted system?
Has this been reviewed or looked
Well,
over?
well,
by-
hold on, just to clarify, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But so you're asking specifically about ground-mounted solar energy systems, and under the revised ordinance 1044-B, dealing with mounted, talks about that it requires.
Both.
Yeah,
Oh,
number
okay.
one, so that's still required. But
Okay.
to clarify, that's why I was trying to ask that before. So right now, for residential applications, or residential purposes, in all residential districts, it is striking the requirement that they would all, currently, if you don't change the ordinance, they will default and go to ABR for review.
But those are building mounted, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, building mounted solar energy, so that's the 1044A4, building mounted solar energy systems on property used for residential purposes.
So I don't have any issue with building mounted. I'm totally focused on ground mounted.
Well, ground mounted goes to ABR.
And the ZBA is
Ground
a
mounted
special
goes,
use.
if we approve this, ground mounted goes to ABR.
And zoning.
Okay.
For special
and
use permit.
I apologize for being snappy a moment ago and say I understood. I clearly didn't. So,
You were not being snappy. I didn't sense it.
No, but the difference is, right now, building mounted solar systems, that is the majority of the changes in this ordinance, dealing in residential districts. But the only ABR review would be required is if, in section 4D, it states that on its face, that the proposed energy system, and hold on,
Yeah, well, basically, if I can interrupt, Drew, what
Please
that
do.
means is, under the provision for building-mounted solar systems on property used for residential purposes, it's not a zoning issue. It's a
Understand.
building commissioner can make a determination that it should go to the ABR
Yep,
under that
or not.
provision.
Yep,
but it doesn't automatically go.
I understand.
Not automatically
And
go.
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. It was ground mounted systems that I had a concern about. So I've got no concern about up, mounted up.
Anybody else have a concern, question?
And I'm just sorry, and I don't want to raise an issue where there's not one, but just to clarify, there was another question that was raised earlier today about the fact that this zoning text amendment was not run past the ABR, and it did alter their,
Right, that
Processes.
was the question I was gonna ask before you interrupted me.
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Okay, so, that was the question. Has the ABR seen this, realizes that, have they weighed in on this?
No, but they're not the keepers of the code. The ZBA, that's their role, and then the village board comes in and amends that. Nothing precludes the village board from sending it to the ABR and say, hey, just, we can send it before or after, but that's,
Your comment to me was that, as a matter of course, the PCZBA would be the one to refer it to ABR. Is that right?
no. This body would. I'm sorry if I was misunderstood. So if you guys wanted this ordinance.
No, I mean, routinely, prior to this document, the PCZBA it would go from them to the ABR.
It would follow that track, correct? It would,
Yes.
but that would be,
For specific approval?
yes.
Okay.
But that was done because the code called it out. And typically, we would send things sequentially to zoning first, because if they're gonna say, no, there's no reason to go to
Yeah.
ABR then, right?
So my question was the same as Kathy's, is ABR okay with this change in process?
They have not weighed in on it.
But I think what you're saying is it's zoning's purview to change the code. not-
That is
not-
correct. And sometimes the ABR brings issues forward, like signage code amendments, as they've done in the past, and that get referred back to them. But historically, this solar energy system regulation started in the PCZBA, and this is their present-day review of the code and how it should be modified to reflect contemporary.
And so
regulations.
just to restate something, I think you said, the building code inspector can kick something to ABR if
Yes.
they're concerned about
And
the
and
aesthetics or whatever.
And the standards for that are in the code.
Okay, so
Existing code.
There's a process for it.
I'm good.
There's
I'm
still a
good with that.
process, we're
Yeah.
still protected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you just state in a small sentence?
Probably
The
not.
problem that this is addressing, the reason
Yeah.
for this is because before it was something and now it's
Yeah, I think
something better.
succinctly is that the current makeup of the PCZBA is less concerned with going down to the doorknob on zoning on everything, and they're modifying their code to reflect more contemporary standards in the building community in most communities. And there was a survey done and shared with the PCZBA, and I think we were shown as the most restrictive in terms of and highest regulatory efforts when it comes to this aspect. And I think there's more of a general objective to support this type of construction rather than create hurdles.
And, you know, just off the top of my head, when I think about any residents in the village, do I know of any homes that have visible solar systems? Off the top of my head, I don't know of any. I mean, what is the, you know, percentage of people that this applies to?
Yeah, I'm aware of one in the village.
Okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get, you know, like fly up 10,000 feet, because you get
Yeah.
caught in all this, and you think, why are we talking about this, and how many
Yeah.
people does this affect, and, okay.
But there is a cost savings in
In
revising this, right?
Yes.
So there is some encouragement by revising the ordinance to say, hey, let's let people do this a little bit more
have
easily.
fewer
So,
hurdles.
have fewer hurdles, fewer hoops, but still maintain some procedure, so.
And it suggests that from a desirability standpoint, for us, from a policy standpoint, we would intend to encourage this. Looking down the road, I think it will only become a more significant issue, perhaps more prevalent, and anything we can do is probably environmentally sensitive.
Thank you.
Okay. All righty. I think we're still on number 16.
Yeah, I just want, I mean, as a memo notes, there's one today, there could be two, as soon as two is,
Right,
project
this
moves
is-
forward, right?
It's growth of 100%.
We do have a first and a second, and first reading, this is first reading, voice vote, all in favor.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the regular agenda item, which is the warrant report for August 16th through 31st, which is about expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $438,172.56 for August 1 through 15, and expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $299,849.91 for August 16 to 31st. Total expenditures are in the amount of $415,557.81 for July. All right, and that would be total expenditures, $1,153,580.28. Do I have a motion to accept the warrant report?
So moved.
So moved, okay, by Ms. Ankerman, and a second. Second. Second by Mr. Grenier. Any comments or questions to the finance director? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Trustee Lemieux?
Aye.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Ankman?
Aye.
Trustee Dewar?
Aye.
Okay, so we now have the July 2018 finance report. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dewar, did a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lemieux, and I'll turn that over to the finance director for an overview.
Sure. Sales tax revenue for May 2018 of $286,143 is slightly greater than that of May 2017 revenue of $281,889. Home rule sales tax for May is $83,442, which is $4,458 greater than that of May from 2017. The state continues to charge an admin fee, and the May fee was $1,420. Building permit revenue for FY19 May through July is $93,970 compared to $296,140 for fiscal year 18 May through July. And some FY19 capital expenditures for the train station improvements and the audiovisual equipment in the boardroom, as well as some non-MFT paving expenses have been paid. Current expenditures are consistent with or less than budget.
Any questions for the finance director? Okay. All in favor of accepting the report?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, village administrators report.
In your packet is a request from the CLC Jawa. They have been doing some correction to some grading issues on the property. They're trying to stop stormwater entering their building. Based off the cost of work and the way our permit systems work and fee structure works, is they are seeking relief from a $150 fee. And based off the direction of this body previously, that you wanted to see each and every one of these, so it's here before you as a request for a waiver.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll. Any comments, questions? Roll call.
Trustee Lemieux?
No.
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Inkerman?
Aye.
Trustee Dewart?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
Okay. All righty, we are now, do you have anything else that you'd like to?
Nothing else to report.
Village attorney's report.
No for tonight.
Village president's report, just regarding the appointment of Sophia Twitchell to the Sustainability and Community Enhancement, which we had talked about before, ad hoc committee. You've seen her resume. She has a tremendous amount of experience in environmental and sustainability issues. Do I have a motion to appoint Ms. Twitchell?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Toll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lemieux. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. We now go back to acceptance of the correspondence.
That's part of the consent agenda.
Which is part of the consent agenda. That's right. Okay.
Motion to approve the consent.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thank you by Ms. Ankerman. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. The consent agenda is all the correspondence, the second reading of an ordinance amending Title I of the Municipal Code regarding the comprehensive fee schedule, and approving an amendment to a professional service agreement with Passport Parking, Inc., which we had discussed before. Okay, all in favor?
Roll call vote.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Thank you. Roll call?
Trustee Toll?
Aye.
Trustee Inkerman?
Aye.
Trustee Dewart?
Aye.
Trustee Grenier?
Aye.
All right,
Trust-
number, yeah,
Trustee Lemieux?
sorry.
Aye.
Okay, item number 14, we have taken off as we brought up at the next meeting. You want to talk about?
Yeah,
that
just really
first?
briefly, Village Engineer Jeff Hansen is at a conference, and he and I had a conversation late this afternoon. He has been having ongoing conversations with the village's bridge consultant we've used in the past, which is T.Y. Lin, about this particular project and how it may relate to our Green Bay Road recon project. And this is not time sensitive, so he wanted to have some further of the conversation before he brought it formally to you all. So he asked if we can punt this until the next board meeting, so that's all.
All right. The last item that we have not addressed is an ordinance amending the Lake Bluff zoning regulations relating to swimming pools. At its regular meeting in August, the PCZBA held a public hearing to consider amendments to the Lake Bluff zoning ordinance that would relax standards applicable to swimming pools in residential areas. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the PCZBA recommended unanimously the village board, by text amendment, one, replace the current location restrictions for swimming pools with new regulations prohibiting pools within the front yard of a lot, within 10 feet of any lot line, or within any minimum lot side yard setback. Also, we're removing swimming pools from the calculations for maximum permissible for coverage or floor area ratio. No longer prohibit swimming pools on lots where any other nonconformity exists, and eliminate language applicable to commercial swimming pools, as this section is in the residential chapter of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Lemieux. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Grenier. Comments or questions from the board?
I'm on board with the, with the initiative here on the part of PCZBA, both for the solar panel initiative and this initiative. The only objection I've got to this, and I'm going to recommend that we send it back to PCZBA, if my understanding is correct, which I'm not batting 1,000 tonight, is there is no, so under this ordinance, above-ground pools are allowed, and there would be no review of that. And my concern is that an above-ground pool could be 10 feet tall and have a deck, and I could be looking at, over my yard, my neighbors in their swimming pool, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to recommend that this go back to PCZBA to address the height of above-ground pools in the surrounding deck.
And just so you know, that particular concern has been addressed by other communities in different ways, one of which is for every height that it is, it needs to be set back an additional distance and so forth.
Yeah, and I don't-
There's tools in the zoning codes to manage those types of issues.
Does everybody agree that? to send
But
it
that
back?
hasn't been specifically addressed in this one.
No.
It can be, but it hasn't been.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are communities that also prohibit above-ground pools completely.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, so we are in agreement to send that back?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion.
I think that's a great
I'll move that we send this back to PCZBA to address above-ground pools, to Mr. Toll's point, whether they should be allowed, and if they should be allowed, whether there should be height restrictions.
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll. All righty.
Can I just clarify, height restrictions or any other restrictions? You want to limit it to just height restrictions or prohibition? If I heard your motion right, I'm just,
Run that by me one more time.
I thought you said you wanted to defer it for them to consider whether they should be allowed, as
Correct.
Aaron had said, or whether they should be subject to height restrictions.
And I probably should have said and, but anyway.
But just you want them just to
Just
consider
clarifying
height
what you're saying.
restrictions?
Just height restriction.
Height versus setback?
Versus
Whatever.
ways
Yeah, whatever.
to manage.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not specifying how they do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Above-ground pools need to be
Yeah.
addressed.
All right, we have a new motion on the table. Is this a roll call or?
Let's read that back if we
But
can.
read the whole, could we read that back, Drew?
Okay, so it's a motion to refer the draft ordinance back to the PCZBA for further consideration regarding whether or not above-ground pools should be permitted at all, and then comma, if so, then how might they be better managed through various zoning tools to address potential impacts?
Yeah.
Impacts.
Impact.
Yeah.
Impact's probably better
Yeah.
word than just height.
Second the motion?
Say included.
All right, so that is a motion that has been.
Made
first
by
made.
Mr. Trustee Lemieux and seconded by Trustee
Trustee
Toll,
Toll.
as I
So
understand it.
that is correct. Any other? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, okay. All righty, we have trustees' report tonight. Hearing none. I believe the only thing we have in executive session is consideration of the minutes.
Actual litigation.
Oh, we have actual litigation. That is correct. All righty, I make a motion to go in executive session to discuss the consideration of the minutes of the July 23rd, 2018 meeting and to discuss ongoing litigation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Grenier and second by Mr. Dewart. All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
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 She beat me, but
David,
crowdsourcing or something like
what
that.
was that about?